T-Bird fans, we welcome you to a brand new edition of T-Bird Talk. I'm Cloud County Community College Sports Information Director, Toby Nosker. Coming up this weekend, the Cloud County Community College men's and women's cross-country teams will kick off the season Saturday at the 76th Annual J.K. Gold Classic at Clapp Cross Country Course in Wichita, Kansas. On today's edition of T-Bird Talk, we will preview the start to the 2024 cross-country season when we visit with their head coach, Drew Mahin. It's been a busy week, though, for the Cloud County Community College volleyball team, which last weekend made its second consecutive trip down to Texas, this time to Cisco, and the 2024 Wrangler Ranger Roundup. The T-Birds picked up 3 wins in the tournament, earning 4-set victories over Coastal Bend College, Seminole State College, and Western Texas College. Their lone loss of the weekend came to tournament host Cisco. On Wednesday night, Cloud County traveled to Colby to match up with the Colby Trojans in their Kansas Jayhawk Community College Conference opener. Colby entered the match ranked number 7 in the nation, and they proved why they are one of the best teams in the country, sweeping the T-Birds 13-25, 16-25, 20-25. Sophomore Brady Medina picked up 3 kills and 6 digs. Sophomore Chloe Waymo added 3 kills. Sophomore Ashley Suter provided 5 digs and 4 assists. Freshman Berkeley Curtis lifted a team-high 8 digs. Freshman Maria Clara Lopez Miranda dished out 5 assists to go along with 3 digs. Freshman Grace Rowland and Caroline Schrader each had 2 kills. Cloud County now sits at 3-6 overall and 0-1 in Jayhawk Conference action. Cloud County returns to the court this Saturday when the T-Birds head to Seward County Community College. Seward County is 3-7 overall and 0-1 in Jayhawk Conference action after they were swept by Hutchinson in their conference opener Wednesday night, 21-25, 18-25, 18-25. First serve in the Kansas Jayhawk Community College Conference contest with the Saints is scheduled for 6:30 p.m. Saturday night from the Greenhouse in Liberal, Kansas. Earlier this week, Eric Zabrowski, who played baseball for 1 season at Cloud County Community College, made his Major League Baseball debut for the Cleveland Guardians Wednesday in a relief role against the Kansas City Royals. The Edmonton, Alberta, Canada native pitched in Cleveland's 4-1 loss. Zabrowski came into the game in the 7th inning, and he ended the inning by recording his first ever Major League strikeouts. Zabrowski ended up throwing 1 1/3 innings. He gave up just 1 hit, allowed no runs, didn't issue a walk, and struck out 2 batters. Now, the Guardians originally selected the contract of Zabrowski back on August 28th. Prior to then, he split the 2024 season between the Cleveland Guardians AAA team, the Columbus Clippers, and their AA farm team, the Akron Rubber Ducks. Across 48 2/3 innings, Zabrowski posted an 8-3 record with a 3.51 earned run average and 79 strikeouts. In his minor league career, Zabrowski holds a 14-3 record with a 2.81 earned run average and 148 strikeouts across 99 1/3 innings pitched. Zabrowski was first drafted by the San Diego Padres with the 411th overall pick in the 14th round of the 2018 Major League Baseball draft. After undergoing 2 Tommy John surgeries on his left elbow, Zabrowski was later selected by the Guardians in the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft in 2021. In his lone season at Cloud County, Zabrowski set a single-season record among T-Birds with 117 strikeouts, on his way to being named the Kansas Jayhawk Community College Conference West Division Pitcher of the Year. Zabrowski appeared in 66 innings in 12 games at Cloud, posting a 7-2 record with a 3.14 ERA, including a 1.56 ERA in conference play. He also hit .355 and led all Cloud County players in home runs and runs batted in. His other honors included First Team All-Conference, First Team All-Region 6, and Kansas Jayhawk Community College Conference West Honorable Mention selection as a designated hitter. We want to wish all the best to Eric Zabrowski, a proud T-Bird alum, now pitching in the major leagues for the Cleveland Guardians. Up next, we're going to sit down with the head men's and women's cross-country coach at Cloud County Community College, Drew Mahin, as we will preview the start to their 2024 season. This is T-Bird Talk.
Are you a Kansas or Nebraska high school senior who's thinking about your next steps after high school? If so, you qualify for Cloud County Community College's $500 Early Bird Scholarship. All you have to do is visit campus before December 13th and have a GPA of 3.0 or higher, and you get a $500 scholarship guaranteed. So come visit Cloud and see why our students are Cloud proud. On your visit, you'll see our campus, meet with an academic advisor, and get a chance to have all your questions answered. Set up your campus visit today by giving us a call at 800-729-5101 extension 212 or visiting us online at cloud.edu/admissions.
Joining us now is Cloud County Community College head men's and women's cross-country coach, Drew Mahin. Coach, welcome. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
I appreciate you joining us. I know you're excited to get the season underway. The T-Birds will be competing first in the 76th Annual JK Gold Classic in Wichita. The meet is hosted by Wichita State University and will take place Saturday, September 7th, with the men's race beginning at 8 a.m., the women to follow at 9 a.m. We'll talk about the meets and the rest of the fall schedule in just a moment. Let's kind of talk a little bit about what the preseasons look like, though. And I know some of the kids kind of coming in, you start later, at a later date, not competing until September 7th. So, unlike volleyball that may have a hard, fast practice date, This is when we start August 1st. You can kind of ease kids in, and they arrive at different times. Kind of tell me a little bit about what the preseason looks like for cross country.
Yeah, this year we're starting classes a little bit earlier than we have in the past. So we try to bring them in about a week and a half early before classes. Typically, the classes start Wednesday, Thursday, so we'll bring them in a week before on a Sunday. And it takes time to do paperwork and physicals and get everybody used to their class schedules. The stress we put on them already in training is a lot. And then when you tie in all the new stuff for freshmen, they're learning how to, get ready for school in a different place. They're different schedules. They got to make more decisions than they've ever made. It's nice to be able to have that, 10-day window to acclimate, to get used to the weather, deal with any different things that might pop up in training. We were really lucky to have 4 or 5 days of really cool weather right around the time that we moved in for school. So we got to change some workouts up and do some things in the afternoon. Now we're back to the heat and humidity and trying to sneak in every workout we can around 6 a.m. So that flexibility before the first meet is important this year, and I think with so many newcomers, it's nice to have an extra week to prepare. Usually we're in a mad rush to try and compete the Friday of Labor Day, of the Labor Day holiday weekend, and it's always just push, and kind of put together a team with Band-Aids and duct tape and get them through some of the soreness of the first few weeks of training. So having that third week, we can stretch things out, and we can make smarter decisions on some training with us opening up down there in Wichita.
And I'm sure you communicate with the kids in the off season in the summer. They have some workouts they should be getting in on their own time. I know your sophomores, they know what the season looks like in the extent, because cross country carries over into the half marathon, to the indoor season, the outdoor season, all of that kind of stuff. And so they understand, the rigors of what college life like and competing as an athlete. Did you feel like they came in, though, in pretty good shape?
I think the sophomores, that mental side is so much more of an edge for them, because they know, okay, this workout's not going to kill me, and I can manage this better this year, and I know what the paces feel like, or which injuries are okay to train through and which ones we need to try to back off and go to the training room. So the sophomores, I'm happy with them. They did enough this summer that they're not in tremendous pain right now, but I think always the intensity picks up when you're around the teammates, when you have a coach there, when you have time constraints of a practice, or even a stopwatch on you versus just you out for a run. So the sophomores, I'm happy with where they're at right now. Now, where do we grow and where do we change will be dictated by how they do in the first meet. The freshmen just overwhelmed. I think they drink water out of a fire hose at this point, and they're just trying to get their head above water and be able to manage every day as it comes. Some of the freshmen did a lot of work this summer, but maybe it wasn't as intense as it should have been, or as often and frequent, maybe with too many breaks in between workouts or hard days. So you're trying to get them to think like a full year-round runner, not only just performing for a few months or training for a few months, but do you sleep like a runner? Do you eat like a runner? Do you bring your clothes and shoes to practice and you're prepared before you're ready to be at practice? I think that's the big next step up for them. But you're right, it just bleeds into the next indoor season, the outdoor season. This is really a microcosm of progress, of this is where you're at today. This doesn't mean everything this week. Next week will be a new week. But also, we're trying to build up to the outdoor season. In the Olympics, I always joke there's no indoor track in the Olympics, but it's the outdoor track season that gets the most attention, and rightfully so. It's the premier sport or premier season for us in May. So all of cross country has to bleed into those other events and other sports that we do compete in throughout the year.
You know, some of the freshmen, though, while they're freshmen for cross country, you did get a chance to work with them in the spring. They'd come in mid-semester or mid-school year, I should say, last year. And so at least you have that familiarity with each other and that relationship already built prior to them now starting their freshman year as cross country runners. Yeah,
a couple of them are middle distance runners, so they would run mostly 4x8, 4x4, 800, maybe indoors. We do a couple odd events with the 600 and the 1,000. Two of them were steeplechase athletes as well, so trying to compare that to what we're doing with extending out the distance of the races is much more difficult. We know that they're talented. It's just a different type of training and a different type of feel. Some of the 800 middle distance runners are pushing workouts way too fast because that's what feels good to them, versus slowing that pace down and extending it out through, you know, a 3-mile or 5-mile race. So it's a different mentality. It's a different mentality in what hard work is. Some kids feel like they have to puke for it to be a quality workout, which isn't the case. We want to be able to walk away from workouts knowing we could have gone faster or gone further and saving more in that bank for the next week. Otherwise, you get into like chronic fatigue state where they're just dead and spent, and then you have stress fractures and all sorts of other issues that we have luckily have never had to deal with because we're probably a little more conservative on training volumes.
Let's talk about this year's makeup of the team. And not a lot of returners back. A handful on the girls' side, just 2 runners back on the men's team. So tell me a little bit about that sophomore group first. Again, limited in numbers, but I know pretty talented.
Yeah, having Ethan Ochana back on the guys' side and Alan, they have some experience in cross country. Alan didn't run in high school, so this is only his real second season of cross country, and he's been training really well for where he's come from. Ethan's going to have to be a leader in training and in meets. He's kind of been really stable in all these workouts and giving great times and splits that have been very consistent. Instead of going out so hard and then dying in the middle of the workouts, he's been very consistent. Their leadership in terms of what they provide for the team is important, showing the freshmen how to do, what to do, when to do, where to go. They've been to some of these meets and locations. We have Jalen, Joella, and Invany coming back from last year's team that they all 3 ran at the regional meet, national meet. They had a lot of great experiences, and hopefully they can just bleed that into the other runners in terms of what to expect in leadership. A lot of those athletes all had pretty decent grades at different points, so they've not only done it on the courses and on the running side of things, but also academically. We put a big priority on that sophomore leadership. The new freshmen, they do have some talent, but sometimes it's a misguided energy that's going left or right of our goals versus straightforward. And trying to realize, you know, your goals are going to be another 10 weeks down the road versus just next week and trying to beat the world all in one meet. So
you mentioned Invany. Last year was the Region 6 runner-up, placed 10th overall at the National Cross Country Championships in Huntsville, Alabama, helped establish a new school record 5,000-meter time. Talk a little bit about having her back for her sophomore campaign, and where do the expectations go now in year 2?
Right, and she arguably had the best distance year of a female athlete that we've ever had here at Cloud, with I think 4 or 5 school records between indoor and outdoor track. The cross-country success was honestly like scraping the top level of the surface away and clearing off whatever we could unearth underneath. And what we saw during the track season is she has so much more speed and strength. It's managing the paces of races, having that maturity as a sophomore, knowing you can make your moves later in races versus trying to lead from the front at the beginning of those races. The girls that she's racing against are sometimes 21 to 23 years old, maybe a redshirt fifth-year senior from other D1 schools. They have a lot more experience in these distances. She can do anything from 800 to 5K, but it's learning how to manage the races and make a move at the smart time of each race. So she's really grown up a lot in the last 6 months. We're really excited to see if she can contend not only for a region championship, which she should, or even a top 3 finish at nationals. I think those are very capable goals for her.
2 other runners on the women's side are freshmen as far as cross country is concerned, but they did compete this past spring, part of a outdoor team that finished 3rd at the national meet. And so you've got 2 runners coming in, again, new to cross country, but they know what it's like to compete on a big stage.
Yeah, they're both part of 3 national championship teams with a 4x8 indoor and outdoor, and then a distance medley relay indoors. So that's Mercy on Gamchab, and then Nantakozo and Kube. Nanto actually has our school record in the 800 outdoors, but indoors it took a long time to get kind of that feel of the races and get that fitness level to match what she's capable of. So she's never ran cross country before, and this is a huge step up in growth, and she's doing a lot better this last week in training. So I'm excited to see just where her fitness can carry her, because that should open up bigger doors for bigger marks indoors and outdoors for her in the middle distance. Mercy's probably more suited for that 15 mile 5K type range, and she should be pushing up in the top 3 in the region for sure, and maybe even top 10 in the nation. She's going to have a really good fall season as long as we can keep her healthy. So I'm going to put some really lofty goals on Mercy and scare her a little bit. We need another training partner up there with Invity. And Nanto, anything that we get through the season healthy with is icing on the cake at this point, because she really does star in that 400, 800 range, indoor and outdoor.
Is that tough for you to balance as a coach, because you want to be competitive in the fall in the cross-country season? But for some of these kids, they have those bigger goals down the road, whether it's the indoor and outdoor track seasons. And you got to be able to try to maintain their health and get them to a stage where they can be competitive really, for, several months, not just the 4 or 5 meets that you have during the cross-country season.
It's a major balancing act. We could love to go down to the track 2 or 3 times a week with cross-country kids, and they all want to race, and they all want to do well. But if we do that, we're going to end up with a bunch of hurt people, because you can't train at a high volume on these hills and the distances that we run in cross country and be very intense on the track. Like if you try to chase 2 rabbits, you catch none. You end up hurt, burned out, sick, dealing with fatigue issues, something. So we've kind of got to pick our poison each week and each training session. Realistically, we could get about 2 to 3 good training sessions a week that are either high in volume or high in intensity. Everything else has to support those growth and recovery goals that they have in mind. So realizing you're not where you want to be with speed yet, but that will come. We'll have opportunities later on. Realizing one thing has to change at a time. We can't change 4 different training aspects in it every single week. So next week, we'll focus on the meet. This week, it's maybe 1 or 2 smaller goals that we're going to try and check off of our list.
One more women's runner that we haven't mentioned, but I know you have a freshman from Ethiopia that has joined the club this year.
Yeah, Haset Kasa, she's come to us. She had actually spent 1 year in the United States at a boarding school in Wisconsin. So she played basketball there, and they didn't actually have a cross-country or track team. So this is her first big splash into the running as part of a team. She did a lot of recreational running on her own, but not necessarily part of a cross-country or track team. So learning that curve of what college is demanding has been tough, trying to balance school and sleep and friends and dorms. There's a lot more opportunities for our kids to be involved in different groups, because we do have practices in the morning. It opens up their afternoon. So learning that balance as a student and an athlete is probably the biggest challenge with her right now, and just staying healthy. We don't know what's too far and what's too much, because it's kind of a blank slate there.
Talking today with Clark County Community College head men's and women's cross-country coach Drew Mahin before the teams open up their 2024 season, traveling down to Wichita to compete in the 76th annual J.K. Gold Classic in Wichita. So that's the women's team. You mentioned earlier the men's team has 2 returners, those being Alan Garcia of Concordia, Kansas, Ethan Ochana of Lenexa, Kansas. But then you've got 6 other runners that are joining the team, a couple of more Kansas runners in the mix as well. Tell me about the rest of the makeup of the men's squad.
Yeah, James Poulter comes from Paxico, Kansas, which he would have ran at Wabunzi High School, little 2A school. So he had some success in the middle distance races for the 2A level, and just trying to feel out his way and see what we can do to build either in total volumes, during the track season, or maybe make him a lot faster in those middle distance races. Cody Sharp, is another newcomer from Riley County, Kansas. His sister Haley ran for us for a couple seasons, and now she's out at Fort Hays State. So Cody has done a little bit of everything. He's ran on 4x8s that have gone to state. He did steeplechase in high school. He threw javelin. He's a big kid, and we'll try to keep him healthy for a few weeks, just training and getting some good distance in cross country before we start to look at the indoor track schedule and see how we can best adapt Cody's skill set to whatever events he chooses. Then we also have a returner from last year spring season, but he did not run cross country. Felix Sertan, he ran the steeplechase, 5K, 3K, mile, all sorts of distance races for us. And we saw flashes of success, but trying to put together a full season is difficult when they come in January, expected to take a full-time class load, and they're an international student. He looks like he's much more mature and much more in shape after a good summer of training. And then we have 3 newcomers. Barafa is from Houston, Alif Elsick High School, which we have some other athletes have been very successful with Daniel Siafa and Ludergene Mondesir. So that school has produced some really good kids, but not all of them have done as much experience with track and field. He ran cross country in high school and then played soccer in the spring. So this is his first opportunity in the college world to run this distance of cross country, but also join the track team later on. He's a really good athlete, and we're excited to see how he can grow. Galasa is from Ethiopia and has a really good experience in the 5K, 3K. He should be a national contender and a regional contender for the top 5. He can probably go about 1440s, 1430s on a 5K. Abdelaziz is from Morocco. He just got here about 10 days ago. He's an elite runner for the 600, the 800, and 1,000. Should have opportunities to break some school records indoors, be a part of some good relays, and then be probably a contender for nationals in the top 3 or 4 in some of those events. So him going to a distance race in cross country is putting him out of his comfort zone, but he's really excited to grow as an athlete and be more well-rounded in the distance races. So,
how do you approach the initial, say, 3 weeks, month of practice?
Yeah.
Tell me about what you're trying to accomplish, what you guys are working on.
Yeah, for a lot of the newcomers, we're trying to find out what their comfort zone is on comfortable miles. Maybe that's for a girl in the 7-minute range, 7:30 range for an easy type of a pace to hold. Maybe for some of the elite girls like Envany, we're trying to push her to run with some of the guys. Middle distance guys typically try too hard to stay up with everybody else, so their engine's revving at a different level. You're trying to find out what their comfort zone is, their good heart rate levels, and what they can handle in terms of intensity. Some of it is adjusting the recovery paces on workouts. Other parts of it is we need to incrementally give them a progression. You have to start somewhere in distance running, and you have to have a goal and target in mind, and how to build those stair steps is kind of tricky with different athletes, because some of them are high responders, where after 2 weeks they look like a whole different human being. It's easier to get somebody fit and in shape with aerobic and lungs, but it's harder to get them fast in a short amount of time, because that requires new muscle buildup. To build new muscle, you have to tear down some muscle. So it takes longer to build speed than it does endurance. We can get anybody fit in a short amount of time, like 6 weeks or so. But it really does take a lot longer time to build strength, to then change that into turnover and speed and more 400 to 800 meter reps. So in the first 3 weeks, we're looking for consistency. Where's their base level? And then we start to incrementally throw in changes every other week in between meet weeks, so that we can start to see some stimulus and a recovery, and stimulus and a recovery. So I hope it's not too much of a science class for you now, but we really try to, move the needle each week, but not so far that we're going to pay for it in injuries or a setback later on.
Have you been pleased with what you've seen out of them so far?
I think from the guy side, they've been like a quiet leadership, but they're very much business. From the girl side, we're trying to get more of them to communicate more often. That's been a little bit of a struggle, but it's so tough, because you only have a few moments with them during the warm-up where everybody's together. When we start breaking out into the roads, there's a big gap between people. It's harder to talk to each other and communicate during workouts. So it's like you only get about 20 minutes at the beginning of the workout, 20, 30 minutes at the end of the workout, maybe the van ride to and from the workout places we go, to really build the team culture. That's what's unique with our sport versus volleyball and basketball and baseball, is the moments you get are so much fewer and far in between, but we have to make those valuable as well. Do they know their teammates? Do they trust their teammates? Can they key off of each other, help each other when they're struggling? You have to build a good culture outside of practices in our sport. We can't do that necessarily during the middle of a practice.
Cloud County will officially open its 2024 cross-country season as it heads to Wichita, Kansas to compete in the 76th annual JK Gold Classic on Saturday, September 7th. The meet is hosted by Wichita State University. It'll be one of just 4 regular season meets. Really, you go almost every other week. You get a lot of downtime and time off. Tell me about that approach. Only 4 regular season meets before you head into the region meet and then ultimately nationals. Tell me about that approach and why only 4 meets.
And it's not like we have weekends completely off. Saturdays or Sundays, we're usually doing a long run on the mornings. It's just the amount of training that it takes to be successful at this level. Sometimes you gain less by racing more often. And if they're running tired, like some high school meets, they'll have 2 meets in a week, and you're not doing much training, but you're doing a lot of racing. You're kind of like downplaying the practices in order just to get to the meets healthy. In the college level, most universities that run 8Ks, 10Ks for the guys, and 6Ks and 5Ks for the girls, they might have 3 regular season meets. And then they have a conference, then they have a regional, then they have a nationals. Other schools, if you have a JV roster or a team of like 30 cross-country kids at Kansas Wesleyan, for example, they might put 6 meets on the schedule, but their varsity or their top 7 will only race a handful of times. I think that big injury risk is there for everybody in the distance races. You have 12 months a year that people are training. You're trying to pick your moments of peaking, deal with sickness and injuries and the roster changes that they might have and the revolving door. So with 4 meets, it's enough to get them exposure to Division I, Division II, NAIA, junior college competition. And it's very front-loaded, heavy competition between Wichita State, Nebraska, and the big one is probably the Chili Pepper Festival down there at Arkansas. It climbs with difficulty every single week through October. And then in October, we finally get into the junior college portion of our schedule where we have a little bit more time to prepare for the pre-regionals meet at Cali and then the regionals meet at the end of October. I think it lets us get healthy at the right time and possibly deal with any other challenges we have to have that flexibility. We've had other years where we got rained out at one meet and we had to go back-to-back window 2 meets in a row and then miss a week and then 2 meets in a row, and it really took its toll on the kids in terms of how we could train after those meets. We watch what we do 2 days before meet, we watch what we do 2 days after meet, and to see the downturn that you can have after a big competition, you can't expect that every 10 days,
And Coach, I don't know that people fully appreciate, and you're one of the unique programs, with cross country and track. Wrestling does a little bit. Some of the more individualized sports where you're not just going head to head with junior college athletes, but you'll step out on the course or on the track, with NAIA, D2, Division I athletes. And so you really get an opportunity to put your kids up against some of the best in the country.
Yeah, and I think it's unique. Like you look at the KU relays every year, we attend there and go to compete against possible Olympians. This year, Bryce Hoppel, the American record holder in the 800, he ran the 1500 at the KU meet. There's even professionals that are jumping in and out of competitions through the indoor and outdoor season against our athletes, and it's a great opportunity for them to realize they're human, that they're on the same progressions, that they can see other coaches, they can see other programs, they can get a better idea of who they want to be in the long run. Especially when they're looking at transferring in the future, they have to get out against those competition levels at some point, and it's kind of like time trials every week. When we go down to Wichita State, they have to realize there's different strategies at different schools. Some people, like Wichita, they love to bunch up and pack up their group of runners for the first 2 or 3 miles and then let them race at the end. Other schools are telling people we're going to do a surge workout and you're going to push at the first mile. After that, we're going to settle and then we're going to push again later on in the race. You get a feel for what strategies are going to work for your team and what ideas you can give your athletes in terms of trying different things within a race to get themselves out of a comfort zone or even to take more risk early in the race or later in the race. So every athlete has a little bit different mindset. whether they're super nervous going up against these other schools, they kind of have that deer in the headlights look. They feel overwhelmed. It's good to rip the Band-Aid off early in the year when they realize it's tougher competition. As we get to later in the season, our athletes tend to rise at the right time. We had so many unbelievable performances from kids at regionals and nationals, whether it's cross-country indoors or outdoors, and they're peaking at the right moments because I think of that confidence that they built going through the tougher moments earlier in the season. It's okay for us to go get our butts kicked early in the year, understanding that a lot of this competition is not junior college competition, but it is a level above in terms of consistency, in terms of talent, in terms of the training age that most of these athletes were competing against. So,
and it's a great recruiting tool, right? Because now your students are being seen by coaches at those different levels.
Absolutely. And like Wichita State has a former alumni of Cloud as their head cross-country and distance coach with Kirk Hunter. We have connections across the country due to Coach Kitchener and Schmitz being here for so long and creating that stability. So it's another way that we get to open up avenues long after their running careers are done. They could be in a profession that they need to build those connections early in college. They could be in a world where they're getting into sports management, coaching themselves, fitness. So it gives them a chance to be on another campus and do some unofficial visits while we get to travel around the Midwest and really open up their eyes to what the world can offer.
Again, Cloud County going to open up its 2024 cross-country season at the 76th Annual JK Gold Classic in Wichita. It's Saturday, September 7th. The meet is hosted by Wichita State. It'll take place at Clapp Cross Country Course, a new rolling to hilly grass course that's located at L.W. Clapp Park in Wichita. The men's race will begin at 8 a.m. with the women to follow at 9 a.m., but a new course for you guys to try out.
Yeah, they did some renovations on it. I think it's a disc golf course right now. And everybody that was there thought it was a really team-friendly course for the beginning of the year. Sometimes you worry about a new course if it's going to be too difficult. What's funny from the high school side of racing in Kansas is everybody wants to go to Wamego and race because it's where the pre-state meet is for the 1A, 2A, and 4A competitions. And everybody wants to go to Rimrock at KU because that's where the 3A, 5A, and 6A competitions are for state. And they're two of the most difficult courses in the state of Kansas. So they want to go to challenging courses. In college, it's like every single coach is afraid to go to hilly courses because they want to have pertinent times. They want to go for rankings. They want to beat other quality teams. So most of the college cross-country meets we go on now are called like grass tracks. They are fast. And they give you a good sense of what's capable on the top end level, but they're not going to beat you to death and make some kids cry on the course. So Wichita did a really good job of hosting that course last year. I think they've even made a lot of additions to the surface and make sure that the turns are going to be adaptable for whatever rain or weather that they might get later in the year. They're hosting the conference meet later this season where Lucy Ndungu, who ran for us, is the conference's top returning athlete. So it'll be exciting to see how she does and compare some of our training we did with her versus what Inverney's able to have been doing lately. The course should be really good, and we're expecting some high-level competition.
So Cloud opens up again September 7th at the 76th Annual JK Gold Classic in Wichita. The men's race at 8 a.m., the women to follow at 9 a.m. And then after that, the regular season portion includes the Woody Greeno Jay Dirksen Invitational, which is co-hosted by Nebraska Wesleyan University and the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. That'll take place September 21st at Mahoney Park Golf Course in Lincoln, Nebraska. The 36th Annual Chili Pepper Cross Country Festival in Fayetteville, Arkansas will then take place September 28th. And then finally, the Cali College Region 6 preview will take place October 12th at Kansas Veterans Home in Winfield, Kansas. Gives the teams an opportunity to compete on what will be the KJCCC Region 6 Championship course down in Winfield on October 25th. And then for those who qualify, Cloud County will wrap up its season November 9th, competing at the 2024 NJCAA Division I Cross Country Championships in Richmond, Virginia. You ready for this?
I am. It'll be exciting to finally get to go and watch these young men and women that have worked really hard so far, just to be able to see where they're at and be proud of something. They've had some really good workouts. It's just trying to be consistent for the next 6 to 10, 12 weeks that we can provide for them. The weather will change soon. The conditions of training will change soon. But to be able to see them grow as people, grow as students, grow as leaders on our team, That's really important. But these meets are great opportunities for them to get out into the world and experience some things. And maybe they get setbacks, maybe they have some successes that are early, but it doesn't define who they are for the whole entire year. It's just another step along the path, and we're really excited to represent Cloud. So
we'll be sharing results, of course, up at our website at cloudtbirds.com and up at all of our various social media platforms. So folks want to make sure they're following us, Cloud County Athletics. Coach, it's time for our final 4 questions.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
You're putting me on the spot.
First question, and you kind of addressed this a little bit earlier, team building. You bring in all of these international athletes, Kenya, Ethiopia, Morocco, and then you have kids from Norton, Kansas, Concordia, Kansas, Leonardville, Kansas, Paxico, Kansas. Tell me about that team building aspect and how you try to build those relationships with these kids who now are coming, culturally from such different backgrounds and places.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we have to give them space to not just be a student, give them a space to be an athlete, but also give them a space to just be who they are. We have great leaders to start off with. We recruit some really special kids. Every year, our team amazes me in how much they're involved in the community, in groups, activities, being RAs on the campus and the dorms. This year, I think we have 6, possibly 6. Cross-country and track athletes that are RAs in the dorm. So we already have good leaders. You just have to give them a space where they can finally relax. And that's difficult when they have side jobs and they're studying for 20 hours of class time a week. So we try to do some team breakfasts on Saturday mornings after we finish a long run. If you're all going through the same struggle together, it's kind of like a bonding moment through those difficulties. They've been really supportive of each other in practices, but again, giving them an extra hour after a workout to cool down, to be around each other. The real team bonding I think we do have is when we go on the trips, just like when volleyball is able to go down to Dallas and make some of those memories and see who people are away from the stress. I think that's where we start to grow a lot as a team when we get to go down to Wichita and stay the night, because we have to train and race so early the next morning. The night before is probably going to be our first real team bonding experience where we have a team meal and 3 hours together to go hang out. When we drive 7 hours to Fayetteville, Arkansas, there's a lot of downtime. And surprisingly, since the internet and phones and stuff, there's kids that are constantly talking, joking with each other and kind of engaging on those trips. When we go on those trips, we try to get time where we can put the screens away and be with each other and be humans. So I think that's probably where we grow the most, is after a few of those tougher moments on the longer trips and maybe sharing those difficult things together. We also go to the elementary school for the Concordia Elementary School Marathon, and we're going to go there this week, but many of the freshmen have never been and never gone and never been put in that spotlight before. So once they do that, the sophomores help guide them through some things. We'll do a fundraiser each fall and each spring, typically, sending them out in the community, and maybe we're selling T-shirts or donuts or doing some other things, and we have to pair up kids in cars and send them all over the place. That's where they really grow as people, too, and leaders. So it gives them another opportunity to find out who each other are. We've gone to the Cloud County Tourism. We've gone to the POW camp. We've done a scavenger hunt with all of the different orphan trained statues around the community, and that surprisingly is a great workout if they're on foot with cell phones trying to find those statues and looking up addresses. But we're trying to get them to be more involved outside of themselves, and really it starts with leadership. If you don't have good people on the bus, you probably can't keep that culture going. You can't keep that community going. I joke to recruits all the time that if we do a good job of bringing in athletes, and after 2 years, you should be crying when you leave. You should be invested into some other people besides just in school, just in the track or cross-country avenues. So,
second question, and you might have answered some of this already. How do you make the workouts or the experience fun and enjoyable, given it's such a long season, bleeding over from one season into another? It becomes such a long year for these kids. How can you make it fun?
Yeah, and I think there's an art to coaching. And it's more, subjective versus objective. You could be just data driven, and on this day, on this workout, you split this time, and you did better than last time. And maybe they're improved physically, but not mentally. You got to know how to read the crowd and read the people. So sometimes we'll break up workouts with different music at the track. Maybe if you see that they're kind of getting into a funk on a certain workout, we'll stop and tell them to break up into different groups, or they have to have a different challenge of the week during practices. Or if we're doing easy runs, you got to give prompts for questions that they can get to know each other. Cross-country kids are not normal. I mean, they're very driven, but some of them are type A personalities that have to plan everything out for months. So we're trying to get them in different avenues. We do a good job with the track group in the fall to get them to do some team building things. Maybe it's ultimate frisbee, and sometimes we've had like stitches and a busted eye because somebody hit heads with somebody else, or we'll do sand volleyball or a soccer night. Trying to get them outside of their normal avenues is pretty good. We can change routes all the time here at Cloud. We have some unbelievable training areas with hills and some soft sandy dirt roads down by the river. We have some good areas around the college to do some different training, but it's trying to break up the monotony of it, not letting them get too comfortable and too bored with just running every single day. So I think a lot of it depends on the leaders that we have on our team, and it's about getting the right people that can engage and bring the best out of each other. If you don't have others around you that care when you're having a horrible day or can share when you're having a great day, then that's probably your first issue with having a good team culture. So,
Coaching's an art. That's how you started that.
Yeah.
You're entering your 13th season.
Yeah.
So question number 3, what do you feel like is the biggest thing you've learned from year 1 to now going into 13 that's made you a better coach?
I think it's you're never as good as you think, and you're never as bad as you think. I think every summer you feel like, how are we going to replicate what we did the year before? Every year has been so enjoyable for different reasons. My first year, we didn't have a very big team at all. But we ended the year on some very high notes. And lo and behold, 12 years later, one of those athletes was Bernard Ketter, an Olympian. But yet we still have local alumni from that same group that we stay in contact with. And I think that's what's unique, is every year you get a different view of where the athletes are based on where my life is at that time, before I had kids, before I got married, before my life has changed. I probably communicate with the athletes a little bit different. So trying to judge them on day 10 versus judging them on day 60 versus judging them on 2 years of a complete picture. Trying to give them more optimistic views of what can happen in the future versus what's happened to them just today. So never getting too high and never getting too low, but looking for those moments that we can improve on. I look for more mistakes now, and I enjoy more opportunities and problems, because without those problems, coaches really don't have a job. Without having people that struggle, coaches, educators, and counselors do not have an avenue to make any good changes in somebody's life. So I think I'm trying to enjoy the problems more and look for ways that we can provide some growth. So,
final question. This summer was an exciting one because, of course, Regendra Campbell became the first former Cloud County T-Bird to receive an Olympic medal, earned a bronze medal in men's shot put in the 2024 Summer Games in Paris. Of course, really excited for him, his home country of Jamaica, to have their first ever men's thrower to medal at the Olympics. What does an accomplishment, though, like that mean for Cloud County?
It's just a testament to his work ethic and longevity. His, I guess you would call it, endurance of work. It's really taken a decade to get to that level. In 2016 through 17, when he was competing for us, he had some things happen at nationals where he wasn't able to score points to help the team, but he still made a huge impact by setting school records. He won the indoor Region 6 athlete of the entire meet, and it was a loaded meet with Barton throwers and Hutch and other people. He made a huge impact here, but he still had a lot of room to grow. He was just new to the shot put world of spinning, and Coach Schmitz did an amazing job of developing him in that right. He was a major discus thrower coming in. So him to transition to a secondary event and then now have that be the ultimate prize for him in the Olympics is pretty amazing. Even when he was at Missouri Southern, he wasn't as polished in the shot put as he was the discus. And he won national titles in both of those. He had a year cut out due to COVID. Anybody that's gone to the professional world or the next level of athletics and then COVID hit, they had to question everything in their life. Is this worth it? Is this financially feasible? Let alone being him an international student that then had to get a visa to stay in the U.S. and train professionally. He's still in Joplin, Missouri with great relationships with the coaches that supported him. He still has good relationships with people here in the Concordia community and with our coaches. We'd seen him at different meets, and he'd always want to ask about the other athletes on the team and how their development was, whether they were Jamaicans or other, United States athletes that we had or throwers. It's a testament to their will to continue because you don't know what's coming next. And you're going on to something good. Even he gave an interview that you guys were able to share about how difficult it is to be a professional. Well, if he doesn't go through those challenges here and make it through the other side on something positive, then how is he going to continue that at Missouri Southern? How is he going to continue that in the professional world afterwards? So if anything, it's a testament to the junior college opportunities that we all provide. It's just a start. And the opportunities start here, but they never have to finish here. And it could be in avenues of life. It could be in the Olympics like what we're seeing now. But now the real testament to him is going to be, can you stay there? Can you stay there for the next 4-year cycle and end up coming back to the Los Angeles Games? He's got a great start to that, and he's at a good age that he can still come back and get another Olympic run. But there's some up-and-coming other Jamaican athletes that he's opened up the doors for that will surely be pushing to try and take down his spot. But him throwing 22 meters or over 70 feet in the shot put is not only world-class, it's in like the top 3% of people that have ever thrown the shot put in world history. So it's pretty special to see, the blank slates that we get to work with or the question marks we get to train sometimes are the best benefit to those athletes. They might think they're this type of an athlete coming in, and lo and behold, their opportunities change and they can capitalize on that. So it's pretty amazing.
Coach, I really appreciate you making time to join us, and I want to wish all the best to you and your runners as you get the season underway Saturday, September 7th at the 76th Annual JK Gold Classic in Wichita. Best of luck to you and the team.
Appreciate your time. Thanks a lot, Toby.
Are you a Kansas or Nebraska high school senior who's thinking about your next steps after high school? If so, you qualify for Cloud County Community College's $500 Early Bird Scholarship. All you have to do is visit campus before December 13th and have a GPA of 3.0 or higher, and you get a $500 scholarship guaranteed. So come visit Cloud and see why our students are Cloud proud. On your visit, you'll see our campus, meet with an academic advisor, and get a chance to have all your questions answered. Set up your campus visit today by giving us a call at 800-729-5101 extension 212 or visiting us online at cloud.edu/admissions.
My thanks to Cloud County Community College head men's and women's cross-country coach Drew Mahin for being our guest this week on T-Bird Talk. And we want to wish the best to the T-Bird men's and women's cross-country runners as they open up their season this Saturday at the 76th Annual JK Gold Classic at Clapp Cross Country Course in Wichita, Kansas. The meet is hosted by Wichita State University. The men's race will start at 8 a.m. The women's race will follow at 9 a.m. And you can follow the T-Bird runners on our social media channels on X, Instagram, and Facebook. Next week on T-Bird Talk, we'll recap the first weekend of action for the T-Bird cross-country runners, and we'll be talking T-Bird volleyball. Cloud County will be in action at home 3 times next week. It starts with the home opener on Monday, September 9th at 6 p.m. when the T-Birds will host McPherson College JV. Then on Wednesday, September 11th at 6:30 p.m., Cloud County will square off with Dodge City Community College. And on Saturday, September 14th at 5:30 p.m., Cloud County will host Garden City Community College. New episodes of T-Bird Talk drop every Thursday, so make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. T-Bird Talk is a production of the Cloud County Community College Athletic Department.